Okay, so we are live, we are recording, and here we have a part of the FreeTAC team. We are going to introduce ourselves. Then we're going to, discuss a little bit what is FreeTAC server and why we are doing that and what we are planning. And then we will jump into the roadmap conversation. I have created a pool on the general channel. However, if you have any audio idea, please feel free, to collaborate and contribute to ideas. And if you are not talking, please mute yourself. We are not super experienced with that, so probably if we do that again next time, it's going to be better. So let me start introducing myself and the team. So our team is called a FreeTAC team, and the reason why we call ourselves FreeTAC team is because it's not a single individual. Until now, we have been, receiving a lot of help by different people, and the current incarnation of the team is mostly here. So myself, I'm Corver on Discord and several other channels, and in real life, I'm Gio. I work as an enterprise architect, and the reason why I'm doing that is because originally I was interested into the TAC project when that was not even public at all. So, and we decided, myself and Nata, that is the next one that is going to be introduced, to create a server from the scratch. So FreeTAC server has been the very first server available for the public. And after that, a lot of people followed up, but we were the first and we want still to be the best. And I will elaborate later on. But now I will pass to Nata, that is, since the very beginning, the main developer of FreeTAC server.
Yeah, good to see everybody. Yeah, my name is Nathan Paquette. I'm Ghost on a lot of the different platforms. I've been doing kind of software dev for the free tech projects kind of since its inception, really. In real life, right now I'm a student in university, and I'm also working as a contractor for software development. Um, apart from the computer science domain, very active person. I like to run, hike, all of the above, and also based in Canada.
Oh, yes. Nata and myself and Nir, that we're going to introduce next, we are based in the Atlantic Canada in a place called Nova Scotia. So, Nir, that is a good moment to jump in.
Yep. Hi, everyone. My name is Nir. I have been assisting with the development side of FreeTAC server for the last couple months. I'm not sure. I think it's been 4 or 5 months at least. Assisting with the development and fixing of bugs and features and improvements. I'm also currently a student and working on the side.
Thank you. Next one, Fred.
Yeah, hi, I'm Fred. I show up as Frida on most of these things. Mostly been working on documentation and the installer, the Ansible-based installer, also known as the zero-touch installer. And I've been reworking that lately. For my day job, I'm a research engineer at Vanderbilt University in Nashville, Tennessee. And that's about it for me.
Thank you a lot, Fred. Next, Slevin, aka Hans. And we have also here Ait, aka Nick, that has been, collaborating with us in the past. You want to introduce yourself? You are still listed as part of the organization, and you are also the author of several things that we are using. I think would be nice if you introduce yourself.
Sure. My name's Nick. I write a lot of plugins. I wrote the FreeTAC UAS app a long time ago. That was like before the UAS tool was public. And I think FTS is pretty cool. So I like to help out when I can.
By the way, I still believe that the FreeTAC UIS can do a lot of things that I will wish the so-called official app can do. So I think it's awesome. And today we are going also to discuss, we have a poll that you can vote on, and we're going to discuss between one of the major improvements that we want to do, using one of the plugin that Nick has implemented to support that server side, and namely what we call the health plugin. So that but let me now introduce very quickly what is FTS. As I said, I expect this to be on YouTube, and maybe people will not even know what we are talking about. I'm going to try to share my screen. So here is the screen. So FTS is a open source software that you can find on GitHub on the FreeTAC team, FreeTAC server. On the FreeTAC team, we have a variety of projects and so-called repositories that you can find, including the user docs, the main project, the FreeTAC server. This is the installation, this is the UI, and so on. All technical stuff, if you like. But we work on this a lot. You can see the activity of the repository is very high. And one thing that we would like you to do, and also invite others to do, is to give us a star on GitHub here. Currently, we have 595 stars. And having stars of GitHub is very important so that we get the attention not only of users, but also of other developers so that they can help out with the project. And we have also a beautiful, history of the star on GitHub. Currently, as you can see, we are, way above the so-called official tax server, and also another, possible concurrent called Taki. And this brings me a little bit to the philosophy of this project. Now, when we started the project, we had no server at all. So that was easy for us to say, hey, you need to use FreeTAC server. And then, a little bit ago, if you see here the start in June 28, tax server has been released. And a lot of people start to say, hey, if you have that release, why we need to have an open source software? So we described that multiple times, but let me try to recap our motivation here. As of, we don't think that the current tax server is the best possible software around. It's a software that has been around since 20 years. So in my real life profession, we call it a legacy software. It's a software that is maintained by a multi corporation that I will not name, and they get some money from the U.S. government to do that, but that don't mean necessarily that they do the best possible work. And even if the code has been released open source, that don't mean necessarily that they are adopting and embracing an open source philosophy. And that is what we really want to do, to embrace a open source philosophy and to build a real community. and this conversation is part of it. So that is our manifest under our documentation. So what we want to do is to democratize situational awareness. So that is very important. We don't want this to be in the hand of, the U.S. government or the Department of Defense. We want that to be in the hands of the open source community, and we believe that the open source community can do much better, much faster, and much cheaper that government projects. And in this sense, while we will continue to try to support all the feature of TAC, what we want to do is much better, much more. Okay, so we don't want to be simply the copycat of TAC server. We want to be the best TAC server possible, and that is why we're having this conversation. We want to have more community involvement and to ask people, okay, what is that we can do better? Now, in this regard, if you go here, please, if you have not done it, would be very nice if you can give us a star. But if you go under FreeTAC server issues, and then you select enhancement, you have a complete list of things that we have, in our roadmap. And those things are organized by so-called milestone. So if you go here, you can see the milestones, and you can get a list of everything that is currently planned. Full disclosure, we tried in the past to get some grants from different organizations to continue development. Right now, we don't have any source of grant, so this original roadmap was created when we were thinking to have, to be able to do that in our real work. Right now, we do that completely on our free time. We don't know if we can do all of that, especially in the time that is given here. So, and that is my introduction. So if you have any question or remark before we move to the conversation of the roadmap, please feel free to, come in. Anyone? Okay, so from this moment on, if you want to say something, please say, I want to talk, and I will mute myself. We have a limited amount of people here, so it's easier for us to, have a regular conversation rather than a simple streaming. Currently, what I have done, I have created a pool on the general channel, and we have in that pool 5 different options of things that we can develop. So let me try to elaborate on what those are. Number one, the human health dashboard. As I said in the introduction, that is based on the amazing work that Nick, that is participating to this conversation, has done with a plugin. And what we want to do is, first off, Nick and myself in the past month, we have a discussion about standardizing the type of code that is sent by the plugin. And the server-side implementation will allow us to save those, human health information. We can start with heart rate, and also to display on our web UI, so that you can have a kind of, like in those sci-fi movies in which you can see the situation of the team with the current, heart rate. And we could even elaborate server side if, for example, you have for a long period or a high heart rate, it's because you are under pressure or stress. That can be very helpful for, professions like search and rescue or emergency health services, that are submitted to stress. Clearly, that means that we have also some very personal data on the server. And so that is up to the user to decide how to use it. So that is the first feature. The second feature is installation and installation, and also upgrade. Currently, we have this feature that we call Zero Touch Installer that is based on Ansible and works very well to install everything if you start with a clean install. But every time that we do some upgrade is not super clean. So we would like to improve this so in the backend, but also to provide the users with some kind of web install and install. One thing interesting that we have already done and will come out in the next release in any case is we have now connected the UI with the GitHub releases. So you will see what is the last release in the UI. And so you can decide if you want to install the next release. And the idea of this feature will be that you can directly from the web UI, upgrade your system, install the system. The third one is Meshtastic native integration. Currently, we have 15 votes, and it appears that is very high in the priority of the people. So what is that? Meshtastic, you probably know already, is a open source project. It's very, nice what they are doing, and we would like to work with them more. And Meshtastic allow you to connect, different servers or different clients together so that they can talk to each other. But you need to have a Meshtastic device. So the idea would be to attach a Meshtastic device to FTS. Typically, it's going to be a Raspberry Pi so that you have a physical, way to attach them together. And then we could use the same approach that has been used on the client to pass the information with the nice feature of the fact that because FTS can be also online, FTS could translate all the online messages to the Meshtastic network and all the Meshtastic messages to FTS or to the regular code network. And for this feature, because if I'm not mistaken, Nick, you are one of the most important author of the plugin. If I look at GitHub, if you have any idea of how to implement that better, please feel free to come in because I will really appreciate your opinion here. And finally, the last feature that we have in this list, oh no, we have another two, server quick connect. So as you probably already noticed in the last version of the client, you can send to the server a username and password, and that will allow you to download the certificate and connect to the server. And another one is OpenAPI. OpenAPI, as you probably know, is a open standard for API. This is something that we have been working on a lot in the past month, and probably in any case going to be released in multiple fashion. From one side, we want to port our external API to OpenAPI, but also we are prototyping already a feature that will allow you to create an OpenAPI specification and then use a generator to transform that into a FTS component. One of the main features of FTS 2X is the fact that it's a new architecture and it's component based. And this generator will allow developer to start developing a lot of functionalities and components. For example, the human health dashboard here probably is going to be the first example of a component that is generated based on an open API. But those are the features that we have in the list. But feel free to come in and say, okay, I believe we are missing something. I would start here with height. That is like a forge of ideas on plugins and everything. So height, what do you think, Nick?
I mean, we already have the plugin for like the human health dashboard, so that would be a quick win, really, just to implement the back end and then whatever UI components you want to display the data. But the for the plugin side, at least the the human health data dashboard, that a lot of that work is done already.
I agree completely with you. And that's why at the moment, if we don't change anything, it's going to be released for 2.3 that ideally is at the end of this month. But we are open to change that. But what do you think about the mesh static integration? Is that correct that you are one of the main authors, if not the
Yeah,
author
yeah,
of the plugin?
yeah. I'm the author of the plugin. I mean, so the big problem is like TAC data, the XML stuff is a lot of text, and like having a bunch of users sending a bunch of XML over Meshtastic, it's not really suitable for doing that because Meshtastic has a very like limited bandwidth. And so what we've done now in the recent versions of the Meshtastic plugin is switch to protobufs. And for like PLI and chat, we've optimized those into protobufs so that they're a lot smaller than your typical cursor on target message. So if a server wanted to actually support doing lots of users over Meshtastic, a lot of thought needs to be put in on how you can optimize the size and like shrink down as much data as possible. Like in the plugin, we don't send XML. We send like integer values that represent the GPS. We send like the bare minimum UID just so we can identify one user, and like basically everything else that we can strip away, we kind of stripped away.
Right. And by the way, one thing that we have done in FTS is a little bit technical, but in my opinion, it's a major differentiator. Um, we have separated completely the language that is the code, so the information from the transporting language that is like XML. So now we can, basically easily support any protocol like JSON or XML or protobuf, or for example, in future we can use MQTT and anything in between. But we will need to understand, for example, if we send a message, how is interpreted by other clients. You know what I mean? So in this sense, so the protobuf implementation of TAC, in my opinion, could be better because what they have done is the bulk of the code is, in detail. And what they have done is they have put all the detail inside a single protobuf, including all the XML. That is crazy, in my opinion. So it's not exactly a object-oriented protobuf implementation. I don't know how you have
How did
solved
you
that.
how did you handle that? Yeah, because I'm assuming that you didn't just keep the full body of the detail message in the XML, right? That doesn't really make sense given the bandwidth constraints that you were describing.
Yeah, so for the protobufs that we're using in Meshtastic, it's basically like um, we have like the call sign and then the device specific UID. And then the only other things we'll transmit along with those are for a position location is just those two details and then the GPS positions. I
Mm.
think that's really all that's there. And then
In
everything
like
else,
one message.
I'm sorry?
Sorry, in like one message. I didn't mean to cut you off. It's not like a nested thing.
Yeah, so like so you're using Meshtastic with your phone. Um, the ATAC itself is going to generate its normal like cursor on target message that's big and XML or whatever. And what we do is we just extract out a certain key values that we care about, and we just send that over Meshtastic through a protobuf. And then the plugin on the other side is listening for specific port num as they use these things called port nums for like differentiating sources and destinations on the protocol. And so like so if you go to like the Meshtastic GitHub, there's like a protobufs repo, and in the protobufs repo, you'll see like the ATAC proto, and that's the one that the plugin had created for specifically using ATAC across Meshtastic. Like we have all these settings now in Meshtastic where we basically disable all the other Meshtastic like protocol stuff, and it's just ATAC driving the network at that point. So like,
Understood.
for
But
example,
are you also acting as a bridge to like regular messages, or are you only using the messages within the mesh traffic? So, for example, if my phone is connected using LTE to the
Mhm.
regular internet, right? I'm getting messages and sending messages to the mesh traffic network and to the regular TAC network, right? So, do
Yes.
you have a bridge function in this regard?
So like imagine you're connected to the internet and you're connected to like a FreeTAC server over LTE, and your normal data flow will work just fine through that. ATAC has this interface where you can have a like a sneak peek of any outgoing cursor on target that the device is going to send. And that's the point where we have like introspection to say, okay, give me the message components that I care about, and I'm going to package that up myself and send it to the Meshtastic radio in addition to how ATAC would normally just send it to the server.
Right. And you do also the other way around, namely like sending whatever come from Meshtastic to as a regular cut.
Yeah, so like when on the receive side of someone getting a message from you, they're going to receive a protobuf, and then we're going to reconstruct the cursor on target from um, just the bare information that we get over Meshtastic, and then everything else really doesn't matter. Like it can be resynthesized without too much concern. Like the main components for like a PLI is basically your contact information, which is like basically your UID, your call sign, and like your group role, like are you a team member, a team leader, or a HQ or whatever, and then your like team
Right.
color or whatever. So it's not really a lot of data. So like it ends up being like a wire size of like 50 to 70 bytes at the end of the day, whereas a normal cursor on target, could be a couple hundred bytes.
Understood. Okay.
Here, I'll
And
put the
another question is Meshtastic more and more is also used to transport all the data, for example, sensors. Are you thinking about, implementing that? And by the way, it's not that the TAC protocol is really good in describing information such as temperature and humidity and all the stuff, but I have seen a lot of Meshtastic, information regarding that, and you can use now those nice plugins models for hardware functionalities. Are you thinking about that?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm not sure about all the sensors, but for some of the like Meshtastic devices you can buy, they come with like, humidity or like air temperature kind of sensors built in, and some of that information is just already in the Meshtastic network. So like when you receive a neighbor node like update that, hey, this node just popped up on the network and here's all the information about it, they'll actually include some of that environmental information in that payload. And I like the plugin will already kind of like just blob that into like information in the remarks tab for the like the mark on the map. But it's not really any, I haven't done any like work with like a specific sensor, like something that's doing like motion detection or something like that.
And motion detection is what I'm thinking about because one, I mean, temperature in TAC is not super relevant, but in the TAC definition, you have this concept of area and things breaching the area, right?
Yeah.
So entering or exiting a certain area, and uh, having a mesh traffic implementation of that will be, very, very powerful for the community.
Yeah.
So
I mean, at the end of the day, that kind of logic would just be in the plugin. And so like Meshtastic, that like all that kind of stuff already exists in Meshtastic's like protocol and network. And it's just a matter of writing the plugin to have logic to consume that and do something with it. So like you could have your geofence set up in ATAC, and then
right.
you could be listening for Meshtastic messages that hit a GPS coordinate that crosses that, geofence threshold. And then you would have some event occur from the plugin into the ATAC.
Correct. Okay.
I mean, yeah,
We go on. Sorry.
I was just gonna say that kind of stuff is there. It's just it hasn't been implemented basically. But I think like the data is there. It's just it's not being consumed by anything yet.
What we are thinking about is to implement all of that server side. In my
Yeah.
opinion, the fact that in the TAG world everything is client side is not exactly, a modern concept, even it has certain advantages. So to have that server side will allow you to very easily connect, you to a complete mesh static network by simply connecting one node to a FTS, device. That would be the fundamental idea. So the
Yeah.
setup, especially for sensors, I think will be very, very powerful because for humans, it's more easy to say, hey, I want you to connect, to a mesh plastic radio. But for sensor, having a lot of those sensors that are, standalone, probably
Yeah.
will make
I mean,
more sense.
to do it in the server, it would just you would abstract, or you would not do it in the plugin. You would just have the server listening for those kind of mestastic messages that the plugin would do, and then the server would just have its own logic for handling how it's going to do that kind of stuff.
Right, right. And because I've been following a little bit, but I'm not super up to date. Do you know if the Python implementation of the API now is good enough to implement everything
No, I
that you
don't
have
think it's
done?
good right now. I think they're trying to find a maintainer for it. Last I knew, the Python library for Meshtastic didn't have a dedicated maintainer, and so it has like some bit rot, and it needs someone to take care of it. I'm not sure if the team actually found someone for that right now. Like even the API for the Python library for Meshtastic, they like took it down, so there's not a lot of good documentation on it right now.
That
But I
make
think
things a little bit more difficult.
yeah, that you might want to like talk to some of the Meshtastic people that know a little bit more about that than I do. But the last I knew, it wasn't in a good state.
Okay. And you're using a Java library natively?
For me, what I'm doing is so there's a Meshtastic Android app that has like a service that you can subscribe to that service, and then it tells you everything that it knows. So like the Android Meshtastic app does all the heavy lifting for me. I just listen for like here's a new message, here's a new node, and it gives me that data, and then I can make decisions based on that data.
Understood. Okay. The Python, thing is not very good for us, but we'll try to think about it. So, any other idea of things? We have discussed a lot about mesh static. Fred, you are in touch with certain people using FTS, like with XCheck and so on. Do you have anything that you got from them that would be relevant for the discussion on, roadmap and features implementation?
So we're working on integrating FTS with other systems, Army systems, right? I'm not sure I understand your question.
What is that, the people you engage with believe that with FTS should support better? Like if you want to do integration, for example, of the list that we have, OpenAPI probably should be on the very top of their mind.
Yes, yes. Open API is important. I haven't looked through your list yet, but the big thing that they're having problems with in general with all these systems is the combination of deployment configuration and the training that goes along with all that, because these are young guys for the most part that get minimal training, and then they have to deploy these systems, and so they end up deploying something that looks like a central server for a lot of these situations. And what they really need is something that's more distributed to the edge in multiple servers. So
Right.
just
And the
being able
Floco Parrot was the perfect, solution for that.
it was.
But if you don't get, some money,
I-
it will be difficult to implement.
yeah. So I wanted to talk to you about that probably offline, because we might want to redo the proposal and submit it to a different organization to see if maybe they might be interested.
Okay,
But yeah,
let's discuss it offline.
Yep.
Okay, so we have here two other community members because we have a limited amount of people. Courtesy Flash, you want to introduce yourself and say what you think about future thing that you would like to have on FTS?
Sure, I'm just a random user also in Canada, and I've used FTS in the past. I actually don't use it currently, but I'm also a Meshtastic user, and I'm definitely looking forward to native integration. One question I did have about your poll is polls generally have a fallacy where I feel like community members perhaps don't understand what would be best for the project, so I'm just curious, in your opinion, which feature of the poll would be best for the project?
As Nick said, there are certain things that are low-hanging fruits that we can implement easily. Right now, probably the thing that makes more sense to do is to implement the human health component for several reasons, because we have been working on this ability to generate components. And by the way, Nick, because you are so super hyper productive, I really hope that that will be for you, a excuse to look again on, how easy it would be to implement components. We can have a different conversation if you like it. But the idea is that we can very, very easily support server-side functionality by generating most of the code. And so that is an easy thing that we want to do. And then the open API. So there are things that are a little bit more complicated. For example, the Meshtastic integration. We just learned that the Python library is not full supported, so that will require a little bit more work right now on it.
Another thing that we didn't put on the poll, but we think will hopefully be able to really help the maintainability and usability of the project for the end user is the Docker container. We spent a lot of time working on as a team, and the lead kind of dev on that, Andrea, isn't here at the moment, unfortunately. But that's something that we're pretty set on getting done. Eventually, we're working on it kind of day in and day out, and at every meeting. So that's one of those things where we didn't include it because we think it's really essential to the long-term viability of the project to get an easy solution for people who want to self-host, right?
So it's not even in the pool because for us it's self-evident that we are going to do that. The only question is, to get the free time from people. Like the main, responsible for that is not even here today, and that is perfectly fine because it's all free time.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, I'm very appreciative of the open source nature of this project. I thank you guys for your time that you're putting into this.
You are very welcome. The best way in which you can help us is give us a start on GitHub, and you can even get a t-shirt like that. We get the full dollar for each t-shirt that we use, and the money that we receive, the full amount of any donation that we receive, through t-shirt selling and donation goes to maintain the public server. So please understand that we don't get a cent from this project. We spend our own money right now to maintain the public server so that people can use it.
We also appreciate you coming. Thank you. We really like the community engagement. It's
Absolutely,
really
absolutely.
seeing
Thank you
how it helps people is all that really
for
matters.
participating. So any other feature requests that you would like to discuss? Sorry, I missed your name, VA, blah, 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 and so on. What is your real human name?
It's John.
Oh,
In,
John.
in French,
Okay.
yeah, in French it's Jean-Michel, but just call me John. Gonna be simply.
Moi, je parle français, Jean-Michel. C'est bon.
Ah, voilà. Non, c'est bien ça.
Oui, en Nouvelle-Écosse, l'école, on apprend en immersion français. Alors, depuis primaire.
Oh,
Vous
Jean-Michel,
avez, vous
so
avez
you
toutes
also
les deux un
use
très bon anglais.
Merci. You are also using that in a semi-professional fashion, if I understand correctly. what is that? For example, what about your users? You have any feedback from the users that you would like to share with us?
Yeah, just because we spoke about that before the start. We in Quebec we start to use FTS as the amateur radio emergency operation. We started last year to work with FTS as a testing platform. We tested some other solution, but FTS has been the most stable one and the most easiest to work with. Mainly, what we do, we have established some virtual machine that runs on dedicated hardware that we can move around with our operations. And what we do then is we use Meshtastic, or we use the APRS plugin to parse data into FTS and then to attack or to WinTech. And pretty much it's very loved. It's a very good solution to see lots of data, and we also have the possibility, usually with the Wi-Fi hotspot, to share with other agencies. In Quebec, there's a lot of agencies still using paper maps, and so sharing data is a mess, nothing less. So we started to play with some cheap Amazon tablet that we can share on deployment with other agencies and have them see in real time the data on the map. So it's for them it's pretty impressive, and the end user for on our side mostly doesn't see the free tech server or the tech WinTech systems. They mainly have their APRS equipped radio that broadcasts their position. We capture it and we then inject it into FTS, or they have a Meshtastic devices. Some of our most advanced user have on the field attack deployment using Meshtastic. Uh, the most problematic things we get on the use of FTS with Meshtastic is of course the bandwidth. We were looking on a way to maybe translate the data into JSON format in some way to have a less bandwidth hungry system. But other than that, it's pretty impressive. Most features that we use are actually included into FTS. So there's a lot of feature, of course, in Attack and WinTech, and not everything is working, but most of the features that we use are already included. So pretty much we're pretty satisfied with it, and we work to get a touch ahead and maybe make it an official tools of our toolkit in the next few years.
By the way, in release 2.1, we have included a major development that has been for us very difficult to implement, called Mission, aka Data Sync, that conceptually is going to facilitate you to maintain different teams doing different things and focusing for them on the data that are relevant for them. Are you aware of this functionality, and is your team using it?
I've read some things. Sometimes I've been quite busy into the last year, so our VMs are actually a year old right now, maybe even a bit over. No, that's about 1 year old. So we don't have the latest release. Like I said prior to the recording, one of the things that's problematic on the technical side is mainly the need to reinstall and to ensure that the blank VM is really is not too up to date, to ensure that the one click install is working properly with the dependencies and everything. And it gets more and more difficult to do that. So we did not update our VMs to the latest version for quite a while. Sadly, I have this in my project. In the next 2 or 3 months, I'm going to be on a work leave for the whole summer, and this is something I want to achieve prior to September, since in September we will have a mass deployment exercise where I would like to have FTS working for the logistical side of the exercise, so we can demo the features.
And Hans here has recently done a very good video presenting the feature that is on our YouTube channel, in which also this conversation is going to be published. So feel free to watch the video. I think is like 10 minutes. It's a very good overview of the data thing, and especially if you are in a situation which you are managing different tasks. The task system can be, number one, overwhelming with information that you don't need, but also another issue is if you are offline when an information is produced, you may or may not be aware of this information. So the data sync functionality allow you to include people in a certain mission or set of information that are relevant, and those people will receive the updated information as soon they connect to the server. So that is a very important functionality. And as far I know, we are the only open source server to support that, because frankly, it has been extremely difficult to implement, given the fact that the Dutch server implementations are so pretty messy. But I think in your case, the install, web install, and the Docker is going also to be very relevant.
Yeah, sure. Docker is something we really appreciate when it's time to deploy something. Pretty easy to have every dependencies on target, and to generate a second container to make tests for new versions, and then deploy on production side all on the same system, quick and easy. We already use it for Node-RED, for example. We develop a lot of stuff on Node-RED, um, which is pretty easy for people not used to Python or PHP or other language like that. They can at least set the logical flow, and then we can have someone else finalizing the data input output. So pretty impressive. And some people develop stuff that we use and connect with FTS that way. So we can, for example, one of the cool feature we have is that we retrieve the power outage from the Hydro-Québec power company in here, and we can map them on the map live, so we know where are the outage and when is the estimated time to fix the outage. So live on FTS.
Okay, Hans, you are like our community manager. What is that you think that the community is more inclined to get? Okay, so we are almost at the top of the hour. So anything else that you would like to discuss? Right now, if I look at the poll, we don't have a lot of votes, but we only have 16, and we have 8 votes for mesh static native integration. We have 4 votes for the human health dashboard, 2 votes for the API, and 2 votes for web install, server quick connect at 0 votes, probably because it's not well define what it is. But again, that is a ATAC functionality that allow you to send the username and password and get certs. But right now, appear from the current, goals of the community that probably next feature or next release, we are going to implement a human health dashboard. As Nicholas rightly said, we already have the plugin, and then we should think about the mesh static integration. I think is going to be really interesting, but we have some technical, open question that we need to understand. Nick, who is that we should contact in the mesh static community? Do you know anyone personally that we should ping?
Yeah, I would ping Ben. His Discord handle is the Ben Turn. I'll message it to you.
Okay.
But Ben is
awesome.
like the guy who maintains the firmware for Meshtastic. He's pretty involved in everything Meshtastic related.
Okay. So I think this is all for this initial community session. Thank you everyone for participating, and I hope this is going to be the first of many that we're going to do in future. So let us know how you like it or not. If you see that on YouTube, put some comments on YouTube and we will go from there. Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys.